Good evening, everyone. Welcome. If I could ask you when you get it, well, you know what? The food here is so good. Keep eating. Make me a promise. You're going to stay there. Keep eating. Keep drinking. Just listen. Don't throw the food at me. My name is Rick Rekenis. I am the chair of the Downtown Development Authority. I want to welcome you to our 2021 Downtown Summit, which we didn't have in 2020 because of, COVID. As important as, I'm going to go ahead and welcome a lot of very important guests, but I want to give one huge shout out right now to Vladimir Fulman, who is the owner of Mama Bella. Mama Bella's on South Dixie, somewhere across the street, right around where the Goodyear place is. And dudes, this food is awesome, awesome. I'm just gonna take up residence there, and you won't recognize me in a few weeks. I wanna welcome my fellow board members. Mary Hurley Lane is here. Mary, you're somewhere, there you go. There you are. Bill Jacobson. My father, right? Robert Sanders, my other father. Board member Cynthia Nally is here. Cynthia, welcome. And our newest board member, Varissa Laldas. Varissa, right here. Okay. We also have joining us today our mayor of West Palm Beach, Keith James. Commissioner Kelly Schoaf crashed the event. Commissioner Christina Lambert is here. There you go. We have CRA Director Christopher Rugg. We have two assistant city administrators. Armando Fana is here, and Dr. Philip Harris is here, our newest assistant city administrator. Police Chief Frank Adderley is here to make sure you all behave, wear those masks. And Rafael Clemente, our executive director, and our wonderful staff. All right, I'm going to tell you a quick story. It may not be so quick, but it's true. About 3 years ago, I was having lunch down in Fort Lauderdale with a group of business people, talking about cooperating between the three county areas, Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade. And there was a guy sitting next to me who started talking, and as we were talking, he turns to me and he says, "Wait a minute, you're from West Palm Beach?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, he says, "My offices are in Doral. I have never been to West Palm Beach until about 2 months ago. I had never had any reason to go to West Palm until 2 months ago." And he says, and when I heard Brightline was building the train and all that, and people, I said, I thought maybe I better go up to West Palm and see what it's all about. And I said, okay. He says, I guarantee you, you guys have no idea when Brightline finishes and people from Miami start discovering what you have in West Palm Beach. You're not ready for it. You're not ready for them to come loading up there. You're going to be amazed. You have no clue what's about to run you over. And we talked some more and everything, and I said, "So who are you and what do you do?" I can't remember his name, but he said, "Well, I'm the CEO of World Fuel." I go, "Okay." And I said, he goes, "Have you ever heard of World Fuel?" And I said, "No, never heard of it." How many people in this room have ever heard of World Fuel? Okay, you don't count. You don't count. You're from there. You don't count. Has anybody else heard of World Fuel? Okay, right. I had never heard of World Fuel. World Fuel is not a Fortune 500 company, it's a Fortune 50 company located in Doral, and they basically transport energy around the world. Tankers, airplanes, pipelines, whatever, that's their business. Headquartered in Doral. And this guy says, "You guys are amazing. You have this thing you call City Place." And I said, "Yes, I think I've heard of it." He says, "You have the most amazing waterfront. Your city is so clean. It's vibrant. It's so easy to get around. You can walk from here to there, and it's fun." He says, you guys are going to be overrun with people as people start discovering West Palm Beach. That's a true story, and I just wanted to sort of lay that out for you, because I know what happens to us we get mired down in the day-to-day stuff here, in the grind, of just getting through our lives here, and we forget to realize, what a really cool place this is, how special it is, how we've paid attention to the arts, the paintings on the buildings that are just fun, the people are nice, the restaurants, the waterfront. How many people in the world, 3 billion people in the world, would kill to have this commute, right? Okay. So anyway, about 18 months ago, everything was going fine, and we were muddling along in our lives. And we, at the DDA, we were sort of working our plan, and there was, Molly's trolleys were going, and we were doing all these other things. And then the world came to an end, basically. With COVID-19, we ended up, and I own a small business here, downtown West Palm Beach. I've been here many more years than I care to admit. But we all ended up, whether we were CEOs of large companies, whether we were small business owners, whether we were just a single mom, trying to get their kids to school, whether we were running a restaurant, or a dry cleaners or whatever, we were all impacted. And it wasn't just here in West Palm Beach, this was worldwide, but we were hit here. And this was a new one for everybody. Nobody knew which way to turn. Nobody knew what the right answers were. We were all feeling our way. We all collectively felt, again, from CEOs of the big companies down to people like everybody here in this room, we all felt like the earth was moving under our feet, and at the same time, waves were sloshing over the side of the boat, and we just had no idea when we would get to dry, firm land. It was crazy. At the DDA, we ended up canceling programs. We had to put a stop to the trolley program. We stopped a lot of other programs. But we pivoted, and we worked with the restaurants and the other businesses, who now had, edicts on how many people they could have in the restaurant. And so we pioneered the Dining on the Spot program. 42 restaurants in downtown West Palm Beach took advantage of the whole Dining on the Spot. And for 6 months, we subsidized their tents and things like that they were able to eat outside. Out of those 42, I've talked to a number of them, a bunch of them said they would never have made it through COVID had it not been for that kind of assistance. And I'll come back to this too, but the DDA didn't do this by themselves. The mayor and the city commissioners are here, city staff is here. Okay, we might have had an idea, but the city staff, the mayor and his staff kicked in full gear and basically moved heaven and earth on regulations, permits, all this other kind of stuff, so that things could happen virtually overnight, so that our businesses would feel the impact of COVID as little as possible. And so I think that's absolutely huge. It takes everybody to go ahead and work through this. We've sort of come out, or we think we're coming out the other end. I guess we got one more Delta variant, and then who knows after that. But at least now we know what to do. We know to get vaccinated. We know to keep our masks on. We know how to make it through this thing, and so it's not an unknown thing anymore. But the last 18 months have been really crazy. They've been challenging. These are the times that show all of us what we are made of, what grit we have, what perseverance we have, and how we as a community can make it through. And we appreciate everybody's effort in supporting each other, us, their neighbors, in these times of crisis. This brings to mind a quote from a famous immortal American philosopher, Jerry Garcia. Goes something like this. Sometimes the light is shining on me. Sometimes I can barely see. Lately it occurs to me what a long, strange trip it's been. Welcome. I want to introduce now, please, our mayor, Keith James, who has basically also steered this city through this COVID crisis, through these times of uncertainty, and has gotten us to the other side. Mayor James, our very good friend, our partner, And welcome, please. And
Good evening, everyone. All right, let's try this again. You know, one of these times, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you. Thank you, Rick, for that introduction, and also for all your contributions to the city. I have to say it's a first that part of the introduction has been a quote from Jerry Garcia. So I'm going to give you a quote from another esteemed philosopher, James Brown. I feel good. It is truly a pleasure to be together in person. Of late we've been having more of these personal meetings, and I hate to say it, but it reminds us of the good old days, right? It's only been 18 months. But before I go any further, I do need to introduce a couple of VIPs. Their names have already been mentioned, but I'll give them another chance to shine in the spotlight because they work so hard for the city, and that's Commissioner Schoaf, who is with us, and Commissioner Lambert. Oh, right there, okay, all right. They're my partners on the dais, and they do work so hard to make this city what it is. And I know I have some staff members out there, Armando Fana, Jennifer Ferrio, Dr. Harris, and Chris Roog, an excellent team. So it's my pleasure to welcome you and to once again join the Downtown Development Authority for their annual Downtown Summit. Rafael Clemente, from whom you'll hear in just a moment, has led his team at the DDA to many impressive accomplishments throughout the years. Rafael, on behalf of the city, I truly thank you, your board, and your staff for all of your hard work and for the benefits that you've been working for on behalf of downtown residents and business owners. Thank you, sir. It has truly been a pleasure to have the DDA as a partner, working shoulder to shoulder with the city for the good of our community. And I heard you say the other night, and it resonated with me, that you don't believe that you've had such a good working relationship with the city in all of your time at the DDA. And I took that as a compliment, and we will continue to build upon that relationship because I believe in all the good things that you guys are doing, and we could not do it. We as a city could not do it without you. One of the major attributes, and I say this all the time when I'm speaking, of the city is our downtown. It is no accident that Brightline, when they were looking for cities in which to locate, chose West Palm Beach. And I know it is because of our urban core. And as I talk to companies that are looking to relocate here or to establish a presence here, without exception, they cite our downtown. It's the kind of energy that they want their employees to experience. Their employees want to live in an urban core where they could live, work, and play in the same area. So our downtown is a tremendous asset, and each and every day the DDA works to make sure that asset is shining very brightly. So thank you again. And the city of West Palm Beach is proud to support the mission of the DDA through its work on a number of initiatives, whether it be public safety, code enforcement, affordable workforce housing, homelessness, economic development, equity, and quality of life. The DDA has also stepped up to the plate during the public health crisis. Rick just mentioned how you guys were there for businesses, for residents during COVID-19. During the early days of COVID-19, the DDA played an instrumental role in the city's relief efforts, working hand in hand with my administration and our COVID relief unit. and the business community, the DDA was key in developing programs that enhanced our city's resiliency and recovery from the economic impacts of the pandemic. The DDA team reallocated hundreds of thousands of dollars to fund relief efforts, created programs to support local businesses, and produced several virtual events to keep our community connected despite the ongoing physical distancing. Rick mentioned the Dining on the Spot program, which was a tremendous, tremendous success. The DDA provided leadership at a critical time and ensured the provision of much-needed community resources from the beginning of the pandemic and still to this day. It's important to acknowledge the many people working to help our community get on the other side of COVID-19, and I believe we can and will get there. Now, in just a few minutes, you'll hear about the many wonderful things taking place in our downtown, and its challenges too, as our city experiences what I call a golden age. Some of you may have seen the news reports highlighting the national and international interest and investment in our downtown. Actually, that's a joke. All of you have heard about the interest in our city. Corporate relocations are creating good jobs for our residents. There are $2 billion, that's billion with the B, $2 billion in privately initiated projects and development in the pipeline. The demand for Class A office space remains high, and every day new residents are coming to our city. There's definitely a sense of vibrancy, of energy here in our urban core, which I can assure you is not felt in many other parts of our country right now. This vibrancy and energy truly speaks to the resiliency, determination, and innovation of our downtown residents and business owners, many of whom are in this room tonight. These values and attributes, I believe, will ensure and enhance our downtown success for years to come. On that note, I extend my best wishes to everyone for good health. Please stay safe. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Rafael Clemente, Executive Director of the West Palm Beach Downtown Development Authority, for the Downtown Summit update. Rafael, congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Next, I think I'm going to ask the mayor to go last next time. Thank you, Mayor James, and I know I can speak as my chairman did. We are really proud to be part of the city's team. Obviously, the board is appointed by you and approved by your commission, but we feel like that hand-in-glove relationship, and it's been really gratifying to work with your team. And I will say about your team and the staff that I work with every day, it's really it's impressive how much your people care, how much the city staff gives a damn about what they do every day. They really do. It's rare that you send an email at 9 p.m. and you get one back at 9:02 p.m. From somebody else who's out there working on the same issue you're working on. Okay, I lost the clicker. Here we go. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. I can't do that. That's your joke. I wanted to pause for a minute, and when I was putting this presentation together for tonight, I was looking at images. And the image you see is from our pairings event earlier this year in May. And obviously, we didn't do it last year. Is it there? All right. And we didn't do it in 2020. We brought it back in 2021, a slightly scaled down version. I think we had over 600 people attend. But that was the moment when I said, oh, okay, we're coming through this thing. And it was a really powerful moment for me. The whole team of us were downtown, the businesses were revitalized, the streets were full of people, and it really gave me a sense of community accomplishment. Not that the DDA did this or the city did it, but that we did it as a city. And if you look at our annual report this year, both our last year and this year annual reports are here. I hope you all take one in addition to our calendar. You'll see in a little intro in there, I was so blown away by how this community leaned in. We supported each other, we supported our business community, we helped people out, we expressed concern and compassion, and I feel like that made the biggest difference, more than the money, more than anything, was that people really leaned in. And I just wanted to acknowledge that because I know anybody who's here tonight was part of that. So thank you all. All right, so before I get choked up, let's get to business. About us as an organization, the Downtown Development Authority is a special taxing district. We levy a $1 mill or $1 per $1,000 of value ad valorem millage rate. We get the other half of that, the second mill value. We used to levy 2. Years ago, we cut that in half from the CRA. And we invest that money, the 2 mill value, into our downtown in 4 key areas, enhancing our business environment, improving the public realm, improving quality of life for residents, and marketing our district as a destination. We work in this collaborative relationship with the city and the CRA. It's actually formalized in a big, thick document called an interlocal agreement. And the work plan, our work plan, is the scope of work for that agreement. About a year and a half ago, a year or so ago, we redid that work plan with new goals and new objectives, and that drives our work every year. As Rick Rekenis said, last year was a huge pivot, and we learned a lot, but we've incorporated all of that into how we work today. A quick look, as Mayor James pointed out, West Palm Beach is soaring like an eagle. We have been discovered. I think it's an incredible, we've used silver lining, it's overused, just like unprecedented was overused, we can use silver lining now and beat that one to death. It is unbelievable what's happening in our city right now, and it's due to the leadership, it's due to the quality of the place, it's due to the character. We have so many assets that have made us a destination for private sector investment. Our tax base, as I mentioned, we're a taxing authority, is roughly split between commercial and residential, and our district has increased in value by $890 million since 2015. A lot of that, thank you, and I mean that's private sector investment and value growth. A lot of that is new construction. Just this year alone, when I talk about our budget, by the way, this presentation's in 2 pieces. Our work over the past year and then our upcoming year budget, you'll see that we had $103 million of new projects come online in this tax year. So that's just a snapshot of what's coming. Obviously, it's an appetizer. So public realm maintenance, and I'm starting with this. It is the biggest piece of our budget. It is the most area of heavy focus for us as an organization. But stepping back a little bit, when I came to the DDA in 2006, January 9th of 2006, the only thing we did that was a public realm program was run a trolley. We were focused almost solely on business development. A tiny bit of work with residential, and I was brought in as an urban planner to build programs as a staff person, to build programs that would benefit the growing residential population in our district, a growing community, a neighborhood. So at the top of that list, and if you know these guys, for our current work, this is our new clean team. And that is 5:30 a.m. on their first day of work. Catherine asked, and I came out and met them here. That's image companies. They went to work, they're now working 7 days a week in our downtown. You've probably seen them. If you see them, give them a shout out. They're an excellent team. Image is a local company. They also do work for the city. They're based in our city. They employ local people, and they do excellent work. Some quick before and after shots. Alleyways, cleaning, streets, this is Olive Avenue. And yes, people can be really messy. People come downtown to have a good time, and they just let it fly, sometimes a little too much. But, you know, to balance it out, you know, as I always describe the relationship between residential and non-residential as it goes like this, but it sometimes goes like this. So this is one of those ways that we can mitigate some of that impact. And yes, we even have our own, through Image, street sweeper. As much as I want to drive it, they won't let me. But it is, I think the sweeper's running 5 days a week in downtown. The team's working 7, but the sweeper's running 5. And I love the dashboard they have created. They have only been working since July 1st, by the way. They have created this awesome dashboard, and they're tracking all kinds of stuff. But most importantly, as a taxing authority, we want to show the value of that public dollar. So we've asked them to give us the stats on a monthly basis. This is since July 1, 2.25 tons of garbage, 2.25 tons. For the engineers in the room, that's like 9 cubic yards of trash picked up. I love that they're even tracking palm fronds, how many palm fronds they picked up, 260 palm fronds. I don't know what that weighs. And about 330 miles, linear miles of roadway cleaned. It's a lot of trash. Landscape maintenance. This was the second program we started after the Security Ambassador program, which I'll get to in a moment. Our landscape contract is again with a private business based here in West Palm Beach, Scott Lewis Gardening and Trimming. Just some quick stats on that program. They clean 35 intersections. I got to look at my screen here. 5 medians. They maintain landscape. 35 intersection beds, 5 medians, 16 mid-block beds, 164 hanging baskets, and as-needed trimming, and what we call the First Pass program. I believe the city has a similar agreement with a contractor. In the event of a tropical storm or hurricane, if our streets are blocked, we have, through Scott Lewis, a program called First Pass. It's a FEMA reimbursable program to clear our streets right away. So you as residents and business owners can get to and from your homes or your businesses safely, of course, when it's safe to go out. But this is a great asset to have, and it's an emergency FEMA reimbursable expense in the event of a hurricane. Looking ahead at this year, one of the things that has been expressed is, and has been a target, is shade. We have been working hard. Clematis Street and other areas of downtown have had new shade trees planted in the past few years, but there was a plan created in 2018 by a landscape architect, Jonathan Burgess, including not just where, but specific plant types, how they should be planted. We've pulled this back out. You know, lots of things get derailed in COVID, but we've pulled this back out, dusted it off, and we're going to look for some great opportunities to increase our tree canopy downtown. Pressure cleaning. Please remind me, when was this photo taken? 2012. Our first year. This was our first time we pressure cleaned Clematis Street. That's what dirty looks like. There, like, take a close look at that. That's really dirty. That was the first time after about 2 years that Clematis was pressure washed. And it was our first effort to take on the program when we started building the cleaning and maintenance programs that we now implement as the biggest part of our budget was 2012. Today, under contract to Green Earth Power Washing, another local company based in our city and employing local people, cleans about 2.5 million square feet in our downtown district of sidewalks and public spaces. 75% of that water is reclaimed with vacuum pickups they put over storm drains. They recycle the water, clean it, and spray it again. So we are misers with water, having a big impact. And you see the cleaner they use is a down-facing jet. It's not just a big blaster that they're using. They use the blaster to clean gum off, we learned, at 2:30 in the morning out there with them. But for almost the entire area, they use a regular downward-facing one. How big is 2.5 million square feet? 53 football fields. If you're interested in that stuff. Mayor, I know you played ball, right? That's a lot of area. So just on an annual basis, I mean, it's hard to quantify that. I thought this was a good way to do it. One of the things that you don't notice we do, because we do it, is remove graffiti. It's one of those things that when you notice it when it's not done. So last year, 280 sprays, tags, stickers were removed from downtown. That's a local guy, Jay Hartsock. Is Jay here? No? Jay does all kinds of stuff for us, but we removed that graffiti, just like my fun animation. I did that myself. By the way, our Security Ambassador program. I kept this for last, I think, in our public realm area. This was the first program we started. And this program started in 2006 as a pilot and then became a regular part of the DDA's work in 2007. These are stats from our current year, just from our current year, October 1, fiscal year, I should say, October 1 to now. They check in with businesses, they check in with condos, they do security checks in different areas, they assist police and EMS and fire. But the most important thing they do is not something we could really measure. It's visible presence. So when we started this program, it was hand in hand with then Delsa Bush, Chief Bush, and it was through an agreement of what we would do, what our ambassador program would do and what they wouldn't do. They're not police officers, they're not deputized. I see our chief here and our Lieutenant Greg Rideau. Our ambassadors are not deputized, they are not law enforcement officers. They are eyes and ears, they are an extension of law enforcement. Their visible presence on the street is a proven deterrent to bad behavior. It is called the human presence or natural surveillance. If you're an urban planner nerd like me, there's a concept called CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, and one of the number one things is somebody there whose job it is to watch what's going on, or that window over the street that deters bad behavior. That's the number one impact of the program, plus all the things that we can measure with this program. So recently, in February of this year, the Downtown Neighborhood Association did a survey, and I thought it was a good opportunity to cite the statistics. It was a good survey, 101 responses at the time that we received this information. 7 out of 10 people responded, good job. We polled the community. We've not polled the community in this way, but the DNA did it, and we felt like this was a great opportunity to find out exactly what people are thinking. I don't count neutral responses as positive responses, but 7 of 10 said good job. Homeless outreach, and I'm happy Jennifer's here tonight, or she was, I saw her earlier. There you are. The city of West Palm Beach has taken extraordinary measures to address the issue of homelessness. It's in our downtown, it's in Howard Park, it's in Curry Park, it's in the South End, it's Western communities, it's all over our city and all over our county. Pictured in this photo, Marcus Laws on the left side of the image there and his colleague, extraordinary people doing extraordinary and important work. Mayor, I commend you and your staff for putting this program front and center, funding it. It's a tremendous asset. The DDA, we used to fund the Lord's Place to do outreach in our downtown, but once the city built this program, we wanted to just support and coordinate what they were doing, coordinate with what they were doing. So we directed that $75,000 allocation annually to support the staffing of this program. Some quick stats of the program. You can see, I'm not going to read them all off to you, but you can see just in this year, calendar year, from January to July, tremendous impact. And it's not just dealing with people who are homeless, it's preventing people from becoming homeless in the first place, as you saw in that previous slide, eviction prevention and rapid rehousing that keeps people out of the cycle of ending up on the street. And important to share, Marcus Laws shared some of his data with me, is this calendar. And I know that thing is tiny and it's hard to read, but what I wanted to point out was this lists areas on a calendar, Monday through Saturday and Sunday, the entire week, 7 days of the week, of where the outreach team is going to be and when. And if you can see those places, they are across the city. And the point I want to make, we're all interested in downtown, but this issue is not unique to downtown. This issue is in my neighborhood, it's in your neighborhood if you don't live downtown, it's across our state and across our nation. And we collectively, city, community partners are doing everything we can to address it and give it the best possible impact that we can. Trolley Operations, if you have been paying attention, you've seen the trolley has been back up and running since July 1. When I went on the ride around on the first day, I literally saw people clapping and cheering to see the trolley back, which was really fun. But before we stopped the trolley, people always ask me about ridership. Before the trolley stopped as a result of COVID, like so many other things, our fiscal year is October to September, but we stopped in March of 2020. And in that period of time, in that 6-month period of time, nearly 250,000 people boarded the trolley. 250,000 rides, that could be the same person a few times, but that's on par with what we typically see in a regular year of about 500,000 people a year boarding our trolley system. It can and should be upgraded, the routes, and that's probably coming, but in the meantime, we have a pretty good program. Looking ahead, a little teaser here, my board members know this, and maybe city staff knows this, but if you've used Circuit, the low-speed electric shuttle vehicle in downtown, they recently, I don't know, several months ago, they started charging for rides. They were tips only, now they're charging. We're working on a pilot project with them. If the ride begins or ends in the downtown district, it's free. This is modeled after other successful programs like San Diego, Pompano Beach. Portland has what they call Free Fair Square, Portland, Oregon. This is one more way we can incentivize people to either get here without their vehicle, like on Brightline or Tri-Rail or on the bus, or walk or ride a bike, or once they're here to leave their vehicle in place and not create more traffic in the district. Two big outcomes that we all can agree are wins. Traffic is always at the top of mind, especially with new development coming in. So this is one more way that we can help encourage multimodal transportation. It's a 3-month pilot with Circuit. It'll start sometime in October. We're going to get a bunch of good data out of this thing, and then we're going to make decisions about the future of the program, which I think will be good. And I have one more mobility thing that I cannot wait to share with you, but I can't share it yet. But when you hear it, you're going to know what I was talking. You're going to know that's what he was talking about. Oh, I want to say it. So advertising and marketing and public relations, PR and public relations. So just some quick stats. So part of our work plan is to promote our district. And I should have said this at the beginning. All of these things, built environment enhancements, business development, marketing of our district, they go like this. No one is more important than the other. This is a comprehensive way to do community development, whether it's residential quality of life, business revenues, property values, drawing visitors and investment to our place. All these things meld together. So as you hear this presentation and then afterwards look at our budget, understand that these are all component pieces of community development. So advertising and PR, just some quick stats from the past year. We advertise all over, local media, et cetera, et cetera. There's some quick stats there, even on WLRN, which as a nerd I am on all the time. In a 1-month period, some recent stats from a 1-month period, almost 44,000 live spots. If you watch any of these channels on Comcast, or is it now Effect TV, right? We are advertising with commercials produced for downtown on all these channels. I'm either proud or ashamed to say I don't watch any of those channels. But I hear they're very good commercials, and I get to see them before they go up. And annually, is that last year, 12 million impressions? Last fiscal year, 12 million impressions through our advertising campaign with Comcast. Right, that's big. Right? Thank you. And you know, these are things that they used to be much more difficult to quantify, but now, I mean, we know if you're on this thing, or you're streaming at home, or if you're a cable customer, they are very capable of determining exactly what you're doing. Almost as good as social media, which you're all on, I know. I see you. An impression is, that's a great question, Susan. An impression is a pair of eyeballs that saw it, that saw that ad, that saw that commercial run. And you know, that's in the market area, and that could be several people in a household. So our own media, our website, our social media, et cetera, you can see the stats there, 140,000, over 140,000 page views on the DDA's website, about 71,000 unique users. We have over 5,000 on our newsletter. Social media traction is getting better all the time. But this is an important thing I want to point out, is the earned media. That is not advertising that's paid for. That is not social media or website. That's story placements when we did a media release on something positive, like a new mural or a new business opening or Mama Bella at the corner of Dixie and Hibiscus. That is, in my opinion, and I know that we have RBB in the house tonight, that's the most potent type of impression to make. It is organic. It's not somebody buying an ad. That's somebody reading a positive story about your place, which creates value. So in the 6-week period in June and July, we had for earned media alone, and of course there's a contract for our PR, but the impact of that was almost $40,000 in a 6-week period of value. So when we think about this, it is a very tangible, real thing that makes an impression on our community, a positive impact on our community. Events, as Mayor James said, some of those things were virtual last year, but pre-COVID, in the year pre-COVID, we produced 58 individual DDA-produced events. Some large, like pairings, some small, like Love Hour, right? That was a great event. Once we couldn't do them in person, we obviously went and did them virtually. That was one way we kept our community connected. We kept the dialogue going with our stakeholder group and used it as a means to promote the fact that we were still open for business, even if you couldn't go sit down in a place. It really did make an impact. Things like this, here's a small event. This was, I believe this was an assemblage at Pathos. Thank you for hosting us, right? And it was with Magic Garden Mike, and it was how to make cool plant stuff for your condo or your house. Right? If you live in a condo downtown, you don't have a big garden space. You don't have to mow a lawn like I do. You can do cool stuff for your home or your patio. That was a really fun event. And then we did most recently Esperanza Day. I believe that was in May of this year. Hundreds of people came to Esperanza Day. It was a really great partnership with Salento Coffee on Dixie Highway, just south of Clematis, the police department, the city, the Hispanic community came out. I was out of town on a family trip. I was not able to be here, but I heard from everyone unanimously across the board that it was an incredibly good event. I want to commend the team, the DDA team, for pulling this thing together. It was really good. And we even had some cameos from our mayor and commissioners, and others came. It was really good, and this was a good learning opportunity for us in the way we partnered with this business and in the way we look to push diversity in our district, right? This is something that we've not focused on, and it is going to become a focus, has become and will continue to be a focus for us. I'll talk a bit about that more. I say this for last, the business development piece, because we all know what happened and continues to happen right now, unfortunately. We continue to see impacts. So just a snapshot of last year and current year. The first three there you see on the left, grand openings, facade grants, and business incentive grants. That's something we've done every year for more than a decade now. The grand openings are small. They help launch a new business, help introduce them to the community. We cut a ribbon, take a picture. It's a great way to welcome them and promote. Facade grants are just that. Can you improve the facade of your building? It makes your business more visible and attractive, and it also improves the public space, so it's a win-win. That's a win-win for everybody. And then the business incentive grants, those are leasehold improvements to spaces that help close the gap between what a landlord of a 90-year-old building and a new tenant can pay. You know, we're in a downtown that's been here for a long time. There's all kinds of little bits that have to happen to get a place up to code, to make it usable for a new business, and we like to help close the gap, and it makes a big difference. The beauty of that program is those investments stay with the space. If the tenant leaves, whatever those public dollars paid for, only leasehold improvements, things required by code, HVAC, fire sprinklers, structural improvements, those remain with the space, and whoever comes in after them can utilize that space, that benefit. The bottom one, the rent assistance program, was instituted as a rapid response to the impacts of COVID. Businesses couldn't do business. They couldn't pay rent. Landlords couldn't make money. This was a tiered, layered set of impacts on our community. So in addition to promoting, in addition to dining on the spot, we went to offset the impact of lost revenue for businesses and literally put money back into the pockets of the people paying the tax. I mean, this was one way we could help. So in our prior fiscal year, 11 rental assistance grants were awarded. And in the current year, I think we're just about done with this program. 23 were awarded. Altogether, what is that? That's $320,000 roughly in rent assistance. And please remind me, that that's 6 months of rent capped at $1,500 a month. $2,000 a month maximum for 6 months. 50% split, right? 50% of the rent. I should have written that down. But this made a very big impact. In addition to that, we contributed $150,000 to the loan program the city instituted right away, first thing. Chris Rug, prior to being CRA director, as the city's economic development director, immediately created a program that we were able to contribute to. And I think all told, that program doled out almost $500,000 to support businesses in the city, citywide. Obviously, the DDA's funds went to businesses in the district. The Dining on the Spot program, it was talked about, you've all seen it, you know about it, but I want to talk about what it has continued to do. So while that was happening, we were crunching data. We were measuring how people were using the space, we were measuring the impact it was having on businesses, because we realized this really worked. Whether it's COVID or not, this made a very positive impact. So we had different areas. That dots you see on the top there, that's Dining on the Spot, dots. What a catchy name. And the focus areas, you could see them there. So the data highlights, we learned a lot. We learned way more than I'm going to take time to show you tonight. But 72% of people surveyed in this 2-week period were eating or drinking at a Dining on the Spot program area throughout the downtown district. And we weren't going up and surveying them directly. This was observational analysis where I would look at somebody and say, you look like you're 22 years old and you're sitting down having dinner. And we would log that into an app, and it would aggregate all the data and spit it out as you see it here. What we have used that for is to drive change for more of this type of stuff to happen, whether it's now, in COVID time, or after, because these changes really made a difference for their business, for the enjoyment of our public realm. This is a sample sheet of design recommendations that we've created and given to the city as a playbook. So these are now in the hands of Ana Maria Ponte, our city's urban designer and planning staff and permitting, and we're looking to codify this so on-street dining can be upgraded, if you will, based on what we learned through COVID, because that's all we could do. Why is this important? So recently, the International Downtown Association, or the IDA, produced this report, Building on Recovery for Urban Place Management, focused on COVID resilience. And you can see we made the cover there on the bottom left side. We contributed data and information to this report. And I know this is super small, so I'm just going to get out of here and point. Anyway, what the data shows, that chart shows, is when people were surveyed a month ago or 2 months ago across the United States in downtowns, 91% of them said, yes, I'm very willing to go sit outside and dine. And the further you go down that list, the more indoor the activity becomes, and the more unlikely people or unwilling people become to do it. This is going to be with us for a while. We see it right now with Delta affecting our communities, affecting our businesses, and I again appreciate everyone masking. It is important right now. But we are trying to plan for what's now and what's coming. And when it's done, can we continue to implement what we learned? In addition to that, we did a COVID-safe training program for our businesses with Ms. Vidal, Veronica Vidal, the young lady pictured in the photo here. She has a cleaning company. She's certified in medical grade cleaning. She created a protocol for us and a training program that we took to the business community and told us a list of materials and substances to give them to do COVID-safe cleaning. So we wanted to give them every tool we could possibly give them. Some quick feedback. We're not looking for pats on the back, but it was really good to hear from our stakeholder group about the impact that the programs had through the past 18 months. On this from Ben Lubin at the Blind Monk, one of my favorite little gems downtown. Just a quick highlight, since we're such a small place, we cannot responsibly open our inside dining room. The 10 and extra space that the city has allowed is instrumental to us being able to operate. Ben told me he would have probably closed his doors were he not able to spill out into the public space. Ian Curran at the Factory Fitness and Performance Center, a loan recipient. He was a small personal training venue. He could not do anything. He couldn't bring customers into his space. And it was, again, a back up against the wall kind of situation. The amount of effort and time and money that goes into putting a new business in a district, in a space, was worth 10 times the amount that was invested in keeping those businesses. And I know when I know some of you are property owners, some of you are brokers and business people downtown, but even residents, one of the number one things people have told me is we need more businesses in our downtown. We need business diversity in our downtown. This was the way we didn't lose them. So it really made a difference for the community as a whole. Okay, now the second half of the presentation. I see the mayor's getting out of here for this part. Mayor James, thank you, sir. How am I doing on time? I got to wrap. Okay, so budget considerations. I'll go through this as fast as I can, but it's important. Budget considerations. This year, being that we went through what we all went through, we took a pause, board and staff, and we sat down and did a 4-hour workshop. What has happened? Where are we now? And how do we continue to pivot and provide value? So that work plan that I talked about drives our work. The outcomes the community asked for, loud and clear, were clean, safe, and vibrant, or attractive. Clean, safe, and attractive. That was number one. And we budgeted and focused exactly on that. We also talked about being responsive to changing conditions, collaborative efforts with residents, businesses, and the city and CRA, obviously, and expanding our impact with new projects and programs. So a quick review: enhance the physical environment, market, business development, and residential quality of life, and the budget. This is probably not the very best way to show our budget, but it's the best way for me to explain it to you. So the current year is on the left side of that column, 2020, 2021. That's our current fiscal year. Our fiscal year is October 1st to September 30th. We're on a fiscal year calendar by law. It's kind of a pain in the neck, but that's what we have to do. That amount at the very top is our total budgeted amount for this fiscal year and coming next year, 2021, framed in the green box there. Below that are the revenues and the TIF payment we make to the CRA, which I will briefly explain. I'm happy to go into this in depth offline with anybody that would like to. Our value on our 1 mil levy, on our single mil levy, increased by 7.5%. That's part of that. A chunk of that was the $103 million in new construction that came online, plus a slight increase in property values. We also zeroed out our project funding. That was money above our 2 mil value from the CRA that they give back to us. We zeroed that out as we committed 2 years ago. So getting into this, we looked back at 5 years. And I won't linger on this long. There's a whole bunch of numbers here. But we wanted to look at where we've been, what we budgeted for, what are our priorities now, and how are we going to move forward. So you see that top line, budget year over year from 2016, 2017 to our coming year of 21, 22. But the thing I want to point out here is carry forward dollars. So typically, and carry forward money is money that does not get spent out of our budget as of September 30th. That does not mean that money is like in a box unused. It means it couldn't, a lot of that money is allocated to something. A business applied for a grant that they have not yet, a build-out grant that they have not got their permit closed on, and since we only do reimbursements, how long does a build-out take? 6 months? 5 months? Right, 6 months? So we allocate that money in July or August. It might not get spent out until January. So carry forward money is not just sitting there parked. It can be allocated to things that are already happening. However, this happened. So many things that we would typically do did not allow us to do what we typically do. So hence, that money, it's public dollars, we have to be responsible with it. That money has been put aside or I should say rebudgeted into areas that we think are going to allow us to have the biggest impact. Now, with that carry forward number, do I think that's going to keep going? No. I think in a couple of years, it's going to go back down to normal. Knock on wood, praise God that we get through this thing. But we have put it where we feel and what we hear from the community is the best way to spend it. An important point to make also, here's where our fiscal year ends. From July 1 to September, when we did this budget process, we're going to spend about $1.3 million. And the first quarter of next year, we're going to spend about another $1.3 million. And then we have to write a TIF payment to the CRA by law for about $2.3 million, almost the entire value of the mill we levy, minus a tiny increment that we keep. Almost the whole value of our mill goes to the CRA. The bigger that levy is, the bigger the check we have to write. It comes right back to us, but we still have to write a check. We can't float checks. The DDA cannot float checks, right? So just quick math, and I'll go through this quickly. Projected fourth quarter expenditures, and fourth quarter of this year and fourth quarter of this fiscal year and first quarter of next fiscal year. Our fund balance as of July 1, you take away what we're going to spend, that leaves us with $2.7 million, and then we have to write a $2.2 million check. That leaves us with about a month of operating money. So we actually budget for a fiscal year plus a quarter. It is not easy. It is not lining up exactly on a calendar, but it is how the process works per the State Department of Revenue process. Now, we do get revenues in. We start getting revenues in December, but that goes all the way through maybe June of the coming year. I wanted to point this out because I wanted to explain in detail about our budget process and how it works. So very quickly, year over year, the biggest piece of our budget, public realm maintenance programs, you can see from 2017, 2018 till now, coming year, a 212% increase. As I said, we have changed our allocation of money heavily toward improving quality of public spaces in the downtown, in the neighborhood that it is. Public realm expenditures as a whole increased by 24% in the coming year's budget over current year, and the vast majority of those programs are tangible outcomes in the space. Cleaning, pressure cleaning, graffiti removal, landscape maintenance make up the vast majority of that expenditure. Neighborhood services. This area, we reallocated two things into this about 3 years ago now, security and policing and transportation, trolley and circuits part of this. But the neighborhood services budget, 87% of that, which had a 4% increase in the total amount this year for this area of our budget, make up those services. Other things like public space programs, our collaboration with the Downtown Neighborhood Association, homeless outreach, all fall under the neighborhood services budget. Marketing and public relations, we decreased it this year. We anticipated a few things that didn't happen. We budgeted up for them last year. We're launching a new brand soon. We're excited to present that, but we forecasted a bunch of advertising and stuff to do with the new brand launch. We're not launching a new brand in the middle of COVID, so that got paused. We reoriented our budget. You can see the majority of that budget, 45% of it, is advertising and collateral materials. Again, direct impacts that provide tangible outcomes. Business development, a 17% decrease, but again, last year we really beefed that up to provide COVID relief, which hopefully we don't have to do yet again. But the majority of that, over 60%, is investments directly into spaces. Now, other things like business training and support, and you see the 12 for 12 line item in there, that's thoroughfare, business partnerships. These are all ways that we either enhance, invest, or collaborate with our business community. Total expenditures for the year and how they fall, $8.5 million for the year coming. And I'm proud to say that our operations budget has gone up less than 3% this year. Some quick looks at this whole thing altogether. Half our budget, almost half our budget, 45%, goes into projects and programs that are enhancing or benefiting the community directly. Not to say business development doesn't benefit it, but these are things that we can go out and measure and directly point to. District-wide opportunities, obviously expanding cleaning. Yes, we are taking on the waterfront starting October 1, maybe sooner, but we're saying October 1, taking on the waterfront with our contract with image companies. And we're going to, now that we've got the core under control here, we're going to focus on those edge areas and the gateways to make them look even better. As I said, we really want to improve diversity and equity. This is a key outcome goal for our city, and as the middle of our city, we want to play a key role in that program as well. Mobility, I mentioned Circuit and that other project I won't say. Art, we have some really big, exciting art projects coming. One small and fun, one big and cool. And we'll be very excited to launch those and introduce them to the community. And then collaboration with our Downtown Neighborhood Association. The DNA has gotten more and more involved and directly connected to the DDA. Staff has recommended a cool opportunity that we're going to call a placemaking grant. So an individual or an organization could apply and say, we want to do this program in this space. As long as it's free and public, let's hear it. We would love to collaborate, to participate hand in hand. And then workshops and programs for the public, like assemblage, like that we showed that fun workshop. Let's collaborate with the community to provide grants to let them produce their own stuff. That's how neighborhoods knit together and really work well. Trees, I talked about. Dog park. Is Leah here? No. We did have a great conversation with Leah on a conference call with her. It is a need for the neighborhood. The best dog park in the city isn't a dog park. It's called the Meyer Amphitheater, right? It is. It's great. I brought my dog to work every day 2 weeks ago, and twice a day we went to the dog park. It was the best thing ever. I looked for you, Susan, every time I went there, by the way. But we would love to help with this. It is a heavy lift. It's a complex issue, but I think it's doable. And now finally, additional considerations, and then I'm done. I'm sure you all know our state, thankfully, passed a referendum to increase the minimum wage. When we step back and look at our budget as a whole, comprehensively, roughly half of it is contract work that provides outcomes in our district. So we have to be cognizant and aware of what's coming. And this is a good thing. People deserve a living wage. It's going to make a big difference for our community. But right now it's $8.56. We did change our security ambassador program. We brought them up to the standard, the living wage standard of a minimum pay for $15 an hour. But so many of our other contracts that are all coming. So we have to forecast and budget for that. And with that, I am ready to take questions. Sorry I went over time. Yes, sir. Oh, thank you for the reminder. Commissioner Fox asked that we mention that she would love to be here tonight. Unfortunately, she is quarantining herself because she was exposed to somebody with COVID. So she would be here, obviously, as a downtown commissioner. She RCP'd, but let me know she unfortunately couldn't make it. So with that, I think we're open for questions. Yes, ma'am.
I was kind of in on that conference call with Leah Rockwell, the head of Parks and Recreation, about the dog parks. And I mentioned the Palm Beach Post Park, which most people don't know where that is, but it's in front of Noreen McKean on South Flagler, the 300 block, right?
I think so.
And she said we couldn't put a dog park there because it's promised to Sunfest and the boat show. However, the city constantly puts up temporary fencing for events. The whole center of that Palm Beach Post Park is empty. There are palm trees around the edges. Why couldn't it be set up temporarily for a dog park and then take the fencing down when the Sunfest comes or the boat show?
I mean, that may be a possibility, but I do know, having inquired about other things, that under the city's contracts, and I know city staff is here if anybody wants more detail, but particularly with Sunfest, the boat show, et cetera, that space does get used heavily. A temporary dog park might be great there, but maybe there's other opportunities to do a really good one, you know, with shade and seating and everything else. Like, you know, I think we should go for the best possible outcome, and if we have to step it down to a temporary situation, maybe that is an option, but I don't know. There's a few options. Before we go after them, I think we should approach those folks and have conversations. There may be a private property option, but yes, sir.
Is there any plan for a children's park? Children's park.
There is currently not a playground in downtown. There was one at Jose Marti Park. It was removed about a year ago, and that is a critical need. I know the CRA and the community, I guess the CRA and Parks and Rec are planning to do something to replace the children's playground. Mr. Fana can answer that.
Yeah, just real quick, under the parks bond that was passed last year, there is some money allocated for a downtown playground. There's still some details to be worked out. It's not enough, it's not sufficient to complete the project, but there is enough there to prepare a space potentially out here in the waterfront for a downtown playground, or play area. I don't want to say playground, but play area.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you. And we do have the new Heart and Soul Park, which is a beautiful children's park in the Northwest neighborhood. You might
Great
want
point.
to check that out. So I've been a resident for 5 years, a business owner for 35 years downtown. So I have 3 questions. The first one is I live on the west side of downtown, and we have beautiful sunsets. So there's always the mention of the waterfront, but we never mention the western waterfront. And the use of that waterfront is extremely underutilized. So maybe some thoughts or ideas on connecting the west side of downtown with the east. I thank you for the Clearwater Drive shade. That's a big problem downtown. If we like to walk or ride our bikes to work and there's not enough shade, you know, this time of the year it's really rough. So It's great to see those plans that you're proposing, shade. That's very important, so thank you for that. But connectivity to the west side, I know there's been talk also about Fern Street, you know, and hopefully that'll eventually happen. So if you can talk about that, and then quickly on the other 2, and they're both tough ones, you know, the lack of retail. You know, I travel a lot with my wife to look at other places as an urban planner and an architect, and I see a lot of retail in other places, you know. I mean, even down the street, Lake Worth, for example, you know, and of course, Miami and other places, and we don't have a lot of retail. Even City Place, which is now Rosemary Place, has less retail than it used to have. So, and I know everybody says the internet and all that, but there's still a lot of people that like to touch, feel a piece of fabric, shoes, you know, even if it's just, you know, accessories, you know, impulse buying, you know, type of things. And what can we do for that? And then the last one's the toughest one. We purchased our space, we renovated our office, moved during COVID and all that. And sometimes we have to come into work on a Sunday afternoon. And for a couple of hours every Sunday, it turns into a zoo. And not in a good way, you know. I mean, there's been a lot of issues, you know, with publicly disorder, you know, and intoxication, and, you know, using the bathroom and all that, you know, and leaving places very dirty, you know, and without mentioning the name of some of these places, you know. And the funny thing is that the other nights, because we've been doing rallies for Cuba at Jose Marti Park, you know, on my way home, it changes, right? It's like, I guess it's just from like 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. So if that can be addressed too, I'm just concerned about that. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's 1 question per decade downtown, right? You don't get to answer any questions, Mr. Cummings. The first one is connectivity and focus on the western side. So we have definitely, we started actually plans over there with the Saturday soiree and activations over there pre-COVID. We are intending to bring those back. They were well received. It seemed like they were going well, and then it's, you know, sadly we had to shut them down. But that will return as soon as we can. That's 1. 2, connectivity. I have been privy to conversations that the city is having with the county on the Fern Street connection. And I can say things are going well, but nothing has been decided ultimately yet. but that's the biggest possible impact we could make for the western part of, Clear Lake area. It is, unfortunately, it's been designed in a very suburban way. I don't need to tell you as an architect, it's disconnected. So the best thing we can do is to really embrace it. Circuit, a big hope for me is that Circuit will provide that nice bridge in the interim until we get that connection made, some shade put in there, and make it truly feel more like an urban neighborhood. The second question was, remind me? The retail, the lack of retail. So over the years, we have thrown a lot of resources and staff time at recruiting retail. Ultimately, it comes down to two things: landlord-tenant relationship and the market. So I feel like with the incredible investment coming here, not just new office, but a significant amount of new residential downtown, a lot of that multifamily, younger people, they're going to live, work, and play in the district. When retailers start looking at rooftops and demographics, that will make us a much sweeter target. That's number one. Number two, our most desirable retail corridor, Clematis and the edges, is predominantly big spaces. Unfortunately, it's 5,000, 6,000, 14,000. So one project, 314 Clematis, if Chris is still here, the thoroughfare space. In fact, we were just there today, brainstorming a little bit. The hope is that becomes a multi-tenant venue. That's what we're working toward, where smaller retailers can take hold. Because in today's retail market, unless we're a Miami or other place, a 5,000 square or 10,000 square foot space, few retailers can take down that much space. Delray or Lake Worth, one of the big advantages they have is they have a lot of small spaces. They have a lot of 1,000 square foot, 500, even little 500 square foot spaces that are much more attainable for mom and pop retailers. I feel like the ultimate fix is going to be when the market demands it. That's going to be the ultimate thing. And then finally, Sunday afternoons, nightclub behavior in the middle of the day is a challenge. I know our police department and code enforcement department have had their eyes on that issue. I don't think it's a secret that I'm not a big fan of huge nightclubs, but it's a challenge. And I think that if people are breaking the law, if noise ordinances are being exceeded, if public behavior is, standards are being violated, then they should be dealt with. I have come downtown on Sundays, and it's not good, unfortunately. Some of the businesses, most of them are doing the right thing. I see a lot of great stuff happening, but there are a couple of bad actors, and I agree, it's something that we need to address head on. Who's next?
Yeah, my question is, on average, how many homeless people lived in DDA area in this fiscal year versus last fiscal year? And through your initiatives, can you reduce that to zero, something akin to Palm Beach?
That's a very good question. I'm going to lean on Jennifer or Armando about the number of homeless in the downtown area. I remember doing the homeless census myself about a year and a half ago. I don't know what current standards are, what current stats are. Give me a couple of minutes. We'll find out the answer to that. The second part of your question is, can we reduce that to zero? I doubt it. I don't think any city, including Palm Beach, has reduced their homeless count to zero. In fact, we just communicated today with the town of Palm Beach, coincidentally, and asked them if they could share any of their programs and give us a sense of what their issues are over there. And they did say, yes, we do have homeless in our city, living in our town. I see them myself. I'm over there early in the mornings frequently, swimming or surfing or bike riding, and I do see homeless people showering at the beach. I see them coming and going over the bridge. So I don't think any city in America has no homeless people. None. I think that West Palm Beach has done a remarkable job in providing resources and addressing this issue head on. But I think we can aspire to and dream for a zero count and make that a goal, but I think that would be a very, very big challenge.
So Rafael, I just want to add, and Jennifer has, I think, has the numbers for, we actually did a census. There's an annual census that's done county-wide and includes the city, but we've been doing our own census as well, including the downtown area, so she's looking for those numbers. But just to add on to your point, especially urban cities, I want to kind of like quantify that, because there's a big difference between a suburban town or a Palm Beach and an urban city where all the resources that the homeless individuals access are located. So there is no urban city, and I've been to a lot of them to try to find what they're doing, that has figured out how to eliminate homelessness. As Rafael said, we put an enormous amount of resources. I think when you compare us to similar sized cities around the state and around the country, we've done very well. I mean, if you go to anywhere right now in the country, you go to Washington, D.C., you go out to L.A., you go out to almost any part in the western part of the United States, there are tent cities taking up entire blocks, and we don't have that here. So I think between our homeless outreach team, our police department, we've done a good job, all things considering, with the challenges that exist with homelessness. It's a very complicated issue, and we're well aware of the difficulties and we get the calls every day, but it's a complicated issue that we're well aware of and dealing with. Jennifer, you got those numbers?
Yes, so I will share the numbers, and as Armando stated, on an annual basis, we do a countywide count. But just recently, we did the first ever mid-year count of our city, and it was only in the areas of downtown, Northwood. It also included St. Anne Place and Curry Park, and we had assessed the actual locations from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So not exclusively to downtown, because I will have to break it down to you with that data, but a total of 104 individuals we observed in those areas alone. So when you look at that, I mean, that's pretty okay based on our population and based on the demographics of what we were looking at. So
Our city's 105,000, 107,000?
104 people.
No, but our city total population is 110,000?
115, 120. Well, what we looked at is the mid-year count. So this is the first time we ever do it. So when we do the annual count for the county overall, we'll be comparing that data. And then when we do the second mid-year count next year, we'll have more of an accurate idea of what the changes have been.
Rafael, and not to continue to elaborate on the issue even further, but just to give you some more context from across the state, right? So across the state, in the state of Florida, we have roughly about 55,000 homeless people across the state. So Florida is a very attractive state when it comes to homeless populations. I used to actually work in the city of St. Petersburg. We actually had close to about a 300 and something decrease in homelessness, about 808 homeless individuals. The issue now when we look at homelessness has changed dramatically over the years. And so we have to make sure it's not just housing them permanently, but also making sure that we're providing a full sense of, as we use the term called continuum of care, of other wraparound services that can really help the individual sustain and stay inside their household. So when we're looking at this work, it's a systematic approach that we have to look at it from the city of West Palm Beach, which we are putting really efficient systems in place. But it's not something that just the city can do by themselves. We have skin in the game, and this is a social responsibility that the city contributes in, because for us to have the Vickers House and the staff that we have there, trust and believe it's not enough. Even for the homeless count that we have here, we do need more staff to help support the effort. But in essence, a true collaborative with other partners to address the issue around homelessness, it's going to take some time. But again, there's no zero city that has zero homeless.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. This is Dr. Harris, by the way, that Rick introduced. New addition to the city's team, obviously an outstanding addition. So you can see how West Palm is bolstering the team and the staff to get the best job done as possible.
Yes.
And I think we have time for one more question. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, hi, if possible. Thank you so much for this evening. You've brought up in the presentation that the positive impact that Brightline has had in the community and the growth that it has brought to the area. Now that they have an idea of when they plan to run their trains again and connect Miami with West Palm Beach, I believe they've mentioned something of happening in November. how is West Palm Beach preparing for the inflow of people that are coming in that maybe they have not visited the area because the Bright Lane was not operating? So what are your initiatives and how are you preparing to welcome this newcomers in November?
Sure, that's a great question, and we are preparing. I'm happy you asked it. I mean, we are making sure that our streets and our public spaces are clean and welcoming. So when people step off that train, they're greeted by positive, a positive impression. The Circuit ride-share program the Circuit mobile, I should say, low-speed electric shuttle vehicle service rides will be free in the downtown area, is one way we're helping them with that first and last mile. So when they get here, they step off the train, they can literally pull it up on an app and get on and go. There are other initiatives that I keep alluding to that I can't yet say, but they're going to be also add-ons to extend that multimodal connection. So when somebody gets on a train in Fort Lauderdale or Miami or eventually Orlando and arrives in our city, it's a complete trip. They can get off the train and get to where they're going completely conveniently and seamlessly. In terms of the place, having been to those other stations, I think that West Palm Beach is fortunate that when you get off Brightline in West Palm, you step off onto our main street effectively. The other places will grow up and sort of fix themselves up around the station, but West Palm Beach was tailor-made for transit connection to our region. And we are completely walkable. We are welcoming. It's charming. You pull into town, you see historic buildings and artwork and trees. I mean, it's pretty cool. So, but yes, to answer the question, we are taking additional steps, and we're collaborating with Brightline right now to make sure that all these little connections and details are attended to before they launch. The wayfinding program, that's a great recommendation. One of the board members, Bill Jacobson, mentioned, I almost forgot about that. About a year ago, we installed a new pedestrian wayfinding program. The signs, if you've seen them, vertical signs, big steel plate on the bottom, they're directional, head-up orientation, so you get off the train or you walk out of a garage, you can see right where you're at. Those are great pieces. Everyone has a phone and an app, but literally being able to stand in front of something and orient yourself in the space is better for most people, frankly, than a digital thing. Mr. Banting, and that'll be our last question.
Can you bring up the very first slide that started this whole presentation with our first speaker?
Like a video game. Wow, can somebody else do this? Hold on, we're almost there. Tiffany, please. Oh wait, let's redo my cool graffiti thing. Whoop. Thank you. That one? The very first cover slide? That one. That one? That one?
No. Is this working out? Okay.
That's our first.
When Rick Recanis got up there and he was speaking, there was a picture of this really young, handsome guy up on the screen. And I was going to ask you who that was.
That is Rick.
All right. That's my only question.
That was
you
good.
did a great job.
I have a special treat that those of you who stuck it out, we were intending to do this at the beginning of the program, but life gets in the way. But I do see, I have a special treat that I'm going to introduce in just a minute. Before I do that, because she's going to bring the house down, I want to thank my team. Catherine, Cheryl, Tanika, Tiffany, Samantha, Shelley, the board, thank you all. We truly do love doing this event. This year was extra challenging because we didn't have DrumWorks Theater, but we did have Fuse Dog and his team to put this all together, so thank you all. This is always fun. So, the special treat is Dahlia Perimen, also known as Black Dahlia. Dahlia is an internationally published visual, performing, and literary artist, an orator, facilitator, activist, and advocate. She has used the arts to facilitate dialogue, to bring light to issues, to heal communities in crisis across 5 continents, both post-disaster, genocide, and war. She's worked with refugee communities. She's trained 30,000 law enforcement officers. She's worked with mental health professionals and students nationwide, including survivors of mass shootings. Dahlia's participated in a Guinness Book of World Records attempt. She's worked on CBS Sunday Morning. She's a TED discussion host, a member of Mensa, and is on public arts rosters for the U.S. Postal Service, LA Mass Transit, and the city of Ocala. She's had training through the Kennedy Center, Creative Capital, the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, and is currently working on her first dual continent arts and advocacy project. Most importantly, she's a local artist. Dahlia considers the arts her service to the world and is honored to be with you here today. I present to you Dahlia Perimen.
Please excuse our dust. We're building communities purposefully and with intention, combining design concepts plus architectural acumen, building back better than we thrive, alive, we grow. Catalyzing the desires of our neighbors, our cultures, our dreams, drawn from Ellis Island, nations near and far, to and fro, up and down Flagler railways, through Belglade sugarcane fields, whose soil is its fortune, by shotgun houses and colored burial grounds, stirring them into an eclectic mix of tantalizing beauty, pumping lifeblood through the veins of our collective neighborhood heart. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Our purpose, our start, is not to place a lifeless pin on a gridded GPS map. We give and sustain life. For the physical and mental health of a people is rooted in the wellness and well-being of its neighborhoods, its streets, H2O and air, its green spaces and parks. Lighted places fight dark, because long walks along mulch paths and beaches clear minds. And availability of healthy food options at community stores and green markets provide nutrients. They grow our children into doctors and lawyers and scientists and world changers. We are access to opportunities for every single human on this balmy terra firma homeland. We build safety, togetherness. We do not create locations. That's not our job. We are place-making. We are creating experiences, quality of life and quality of place. We're not buildings. We are businesses, creating economic development and economic empowerment for all who reside here, all who reside within these walls or traverse these landscapes. We provide opportunities for our clients. And we nurture friendships on these spots, instilling beauty in the bricks. Tupac's rose that grows from concrete, extracting landscape from land. All are welcome here. Again, all are welcome here. Every nation represented, every homestead, every white picket fence, every dream manifesting. Our collective story is interwoven into this land. No, we are not melting pot. We are indeed stew, where our individual spices, when heated, meld into a beautiful cacophony. The epicenter of life resides on this land. Innovative spaces created for the health and empowerment of its people, utilized to inspire. I am, we are. I am, we are. I am. Doom, doom. Doom, doom. Doom, doom. Doom, doom. We are community. We are collective. And histories evoked over time. Actions and activations. Dearth of human potential. We are not what is. We are what can be. What should be. What will be. Carefully extracting from what was. Public spaces, oasis from concrete jungle. Puzzle pieces of all shapes and sizes build the intricate building blocks on which this city resides. Atop what once were concrete slabs, architectural mock-ups, and city plans, where flags of many nations fly, proudly representing Haiti, Guatemala, Cuba. Glorious, beautiful endeavors, innovative liberation and libations. And they sound and look a lot like the clamor and din of our restaurants. It's outdoor fresh markets, it's parks, it's murals, it's breast cancer runs, walking paths and green lush gardens, it's amphitheater, it's yoga classes, restaurants and libraries, our communal havens and gyms, waterfronts and museums, the places where we live, work and play, zoos, science centers and parks. This land, both Jaga Native, American Indian, ground and sacred, it is momentum, it is life. Perfectly drawn to inspire its inhabitants. It is dynamically downtown. This right here, this extraordinary blue dot, this place, this is our home. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Dahlia. That was awesome. Have a good night, everybody.